Well, I started in the early years sector when my children were very small, and I did some volunteer work at the local preschool and really enjoyed it, and to the extent that I was able to join the committee to run it, and then they suggested I might like to get some training. So I went along and did a one-year foundation course basically in running playgroups, and that was great fun. And then because I was already a teacher of adults, I went on and did a diploma in teaching people in early years and started teaching very informally, in the evenings. And during that period, a building had come up for sale at the top of my road, a community building. And I was able to remortgage my house and bought that building and started up a preschool. So at that point, only from sort of 3 and 4 year olds. And then gradually, over the last 30 years, we went down in age to take babies, basically when my next baby was born. And then because I was doing a lot of staff training, I had a building full of level 3s. And an opportunity came up to buy another nursery, another building, actually, it wasn't a nursery, and start another new nursery. So I did that, and the rest is history, really. So it just gradually grew, one nursery at a time generally, apart from one group in Plymouth, until we're now over 30 nurseries spread from Plymouth to Portsmouth. Being sustainable day to day in a day nursery is a challenge, because obviously our first focus is quality of our teaching and our care of the children. So what I'd love to see is it being embedded in basically everything that they do. So whenever they throw something away, does it go in the right bin? Whenever they want a new resource, is there a way that we can get it so it either lasts a lot longer, or that it's a product that is of the circular economy so we can give it back when we're finished? Or can we upcycle or recycle someone else's product instead of buying new? So it really needs to be integrated into every decision we make and in every department. It's not just about the early years practitioners thinking about their waste and what they buy, but perhaps thinking about what they grow in the garden or in the nurseries with the children. And some practitioners will be further along that journey than others, because some people have done a bit of gardening perhaps at home, and some people have done nothing at all. So for everyone, it's a learning journey, and it depends what you're interested in too. There's also an element where we can do it as an organisation. So for example, we used to buy thousands of plastic toothbrushes every year. And when I realised that that was a disaster for the environment, because these plastic toothbrushes were just being chucked in the bin every 3 months, not being recycled because you couldn't recycle them, then we started buying bamboo toothbrushes. And we've done that with so many products, whether that's cling film. So we used to do a craft activity where we put paint on a table, put cling film over it, and then the children could squidge it with their fingers, which was great. But we've stopped doing that because we don't want to be using that plastic cling film. We've stopped laminating every poster in sight. And again, we can help with that by not providing the laminators to do that. Having said that, you want to have some laminated stuff in the kitchens. We've stopped buying a lot of one-use plastic, but we still have to buy some, because some staff still need to wear gloves because they might have open wounds on their hands, or there might be some particular reason why they're vulnerable to catching bugs from the children. And of course, we saw that escalate madly during the early COVID, where we were using one-use gloves, we were using one-use masks, all kinds of things, which fortunately we were able to stop again fairly quickly. But safety comes first. Obviously we don't want people being stressed or worried because they feel they can't use one-use plastic when they really need to. So there needs to be a pragmatic aspect to that, and a care of ourselves and our colleagues first. And sometimes you just have to make the decisions that is not sustainable, but hopefully you can make other decisions that are more sustainable. So as an organisation, for example, we don't have any diesel or petrol cars. We've got 17 EVs. And those are more sustainable in that we're not using petrol and diesel, we're not creating nasty fumes which cause our children to have asthma. But of course they're not perfect, they're still cars, even if we bought them second hand. And they've still got batteries, and those batteries have lithium in them. Lithium is not a sustainable product. And it could even be mined by children. That's the last thing anyone in childcare wants to buy. So whilst we can reassure ourselves from the manufacturers that these products are not mined by children, you are still reliant on people's goodwill and that they're not greenwashing you, because there is a lot of lying about. You know, quite often when you'll buy a product, the supplier will say, oh yes, this is the most sustainable product, you know, we have, knowing that I'm really interested in sustainability. But then you have to pry into, well, is it certified? Who's it certified by? Is this a proper standard, or is it something someone's made up or used? And it is difficult. So there's an element back to where we were of every nursery person needs to think about sustainability, and it's not just about the environment, it's about society as well. And sustainability from a society's point of view is about people in poverty, children in poverty, colleagues in poverty, you know, and trying to raise people's state basically so that we're not in poverty, and that's really hard in our sector. Actually, embedding an ethos of sustainability is quite a challenge, because even when people say, yes, I really believe in sustainability, whether that's environmental or financial or society, it's quite easy to pay lip service to it and then just not do it in practice. So it's trying to firstly role model what it is to be sustainable. So personally, I'll take an interest in whether the lights are turned off at the end of the day. I even have a look in the bins to see whether people are throwing the right things in the right bins. And also, I work with our rubbish collection people to do the same thing. Because it is so easy for people just to... I mean, one example was we had one nursery where it was quite hot during the day, so they turned the air conditioning on. Somebody else noticed that it was hot during the day and they opened the windows. Somebody else was actually quite cold. I think maybe they weren't feeling very well, and they turned the heating on. So in the same nursery, and I have a photo of this, I have the heating on, the air conditioning on, and the windows open. That, I know, is an example of not embedding sustainability, but at the same time, it's kind of practicality. People try to fix the problem that they have right there and then, and they need to have a more holistic view of it. So I rely on my nursery managers and maybe champions of sustainability within the nurseries to try and pick those things up, as they happen. To bring staff along the journey to sustainability, I think you really need to look at what the staff's interests and passions are. Sustainability is a massive, multifaceted subject. So what I like to do is to find out what the staff interest is. So for example, if a member of staff, a colleague, is interested in gardening, then you could engage with that so that they could grow things, share it with the children, perhaps grow things that you could use for collage or for painting. You could really engage with them by using that, because you can't really expect every colleague to engage with every aspect, so do their interests. So if you've got someone in your accounts department, for example, then you might get them to engage in measuring the KPIs, in making sure that our gas consumption is dropping, alerting the nursery manager if the gas bill is going in the wrong direction or the electricity bill is going in the wrong direction. I do find that people can get very passionate, whether it's about recycling, for example, and they can follow the children's interests as well. So we have got children who maybe have gone along to the tip with mum or dad and have come back and they're starting to sort things, maybe have a scheme or a schema that's relating to recycling. They're maybe learning about different materials, plastic, metal, cardboard, paper. They're into sorting. So by engaging with a passionate child, you can get the colleagues to engage as well. I also find that if we can help them along, so for example, we provide lunch bags to encourage people not to buy a convenience lunch on the way in plastic, one-use plastic wrapping. We provide sporks to staff, so they've got their own knife, fork, spoon that's made of metal, that's not one that they're going to throw in the bin. Or they can use the cutlery. Plastic cups, one-use cups are basically banned on site, as are balloons. So we're really kind of helping people to be more sustainable in their own practice, and then with that they can share that with their children and with the families that they work with. Another thing we do is we give every person going off on maternity leave a washable nappy. And then if they would like to take that up, we give them a whole hamper of washable nappies so that they don't have to use disposables all the time. Now, I fully recognise people may want to use a disposable from time to time. That's what they were designed for, emergency use. But day to day, we can save an enormous amount of energy and money and the planet at the same time by using washable nappies. But if a member of staff who's in the baby unit, say, has never used a washable nappy, how can they share that with the parents of the children in their care? So I think it's really important to help our colleagues to learn about these things, because when they were babies, they wouldn't have been in washable nappies. That's kind of from 30, 40, 50 years ago, and now we're beginning to see them coming back. So there's training involved, there's role modelling, there's using adults' interests, there's using child's interests, and just general education, offering courses to really train people on sustainability. I think if people don't know about it, how can they care about it? And people didn't know about it. I certainly didn't know about it. We used to throw our nappies in the general waste where they went into landfill. I didn't know any better, and I regret that now, but actually that was the best decision I could make at the time. And I'm not about to start beating myself up about making the wrong decision then. What I can do is make the right decisions going forward and encourage others to do the same thing in all the different areas. It's a lovely job to be able to educate and care for children, and we need to do that in a really positive, supportive way so that we are encouraging them and showing them the good things. So specifically, don't frighten children. If you don't do this, then the world will be destroyed, because that will put children into that fight or flight thing, freeze, and they won't want to do anything. And in fact, it might make them really upset, give them nightmares and all sorts. So it's all going to be very positive. So positive stories. Perhaps you could take them on a beach clean, making sure you've risk assessed that and they're picking up, with gloves on or pickers, not their hands, or the local park clean, and just generally talking about, isn't it nice not to have rubbish about, let's pick it up and put it in the bin. And we found that when children do that with us as colleagues, they then share that with their parents, and they pick out, oh, that person, threw that nasty thing on the floor, shall we say something, or they'll pick stuff up. And out of the mouths of babes comes tremendous wisdom. So you'll find that these 2- and 3-year-olds, saying to people in the street, whoa, why have you thrown that on the floor? And shame the adults into doing their bit. So very positive, very proactive, and teaching them different materials as well helps, so that they actually know, what is recyclable, what's reusable. Teach them respect, how to look after things, how to repair things. So when a book gets ripped, don't just take it away and give it to somebody else to repair later. Repair it with the children so that they learn the value of repairing and looking after things, and also recycling and reusing other people's things. So when you've got big strips of gold cardboard that you've got from the scrap store, say, look, this is somebody else's waste, but we can make an amazing castle or creation with this. What would you like to do? And so we can really upcycle things and then be proud of that. Be proud of being thrifty. And it can be a really, really positive thing for all the children and therefore the adults as well. Growing things is great. You can go out and you can grow the carrots, grow the potatoes, grow the tomatoes. Very easy to do, even for people that supposedly don't have green fingers, which is something I don't believe in, because it's just something you can be taught, is how to grow tomatoes. And then bring them back, the children wash them, and then you can taste them and touch them, and that's really great, and something, again, they can take home with their parents, and perhaps grow tomatoes or strawberries or cress. You can even grow cress in a little flat, so it's not something that is restricted to children that have got gardens at home. Quite the opposite. We can really share these fun activities, helpful activities that will set them up for life.